Hello, students from the School of Engineering at Brighton University. My name is Rachel Champion, and I am a contemporary artist who is here to talk to you today about my work and my practice. Um, I'm going to make this talk a bit more about the process of making a piece, more so than the actual finished product, because I think that that is potentially more interesting for you and also maybe more relevant to our potential collaboration. So it's really exciting to be invited to contribute to this conversation because interdisciplinary collaboration is, for me, the most exciting way of making work. I'm really interested in taking different kinds of subjects and bringing them together to ultimately create a different kind of understanding of something. This piece is called Interstate 495 is a terminal moraine. And the artwork is named after the Long Island Expressway, which runs through Long Island, New York, and that's where I'm from. So as far as any artworks I've ever made, this one is probably the most autobiographical. Over the years, I've made artworks in lots of different kinds of places, and there's always something interesting that you can tease out about a place. So it was genuinely a pleasure to take this kind of way of working and apply it to where I'm from. So um, this installation comprises of this kind of form that takes over most of the gallery that is made of, it is clad in images of a swimming pool cover. It has some Pink Panther installation foam, which I would consider these textures of suburbia, which is where I'm from, the suburbs. And there's some native plant life to Long Island. And there are images that are these kind of photographic sculptures of horseshoe crabs collaged onto different kinds of Long Island landscapes. There are these curious bottles of blue liquid around the gallery, and what they're representing are the blue blood of the horseshoe crabs. So let's just take a look and see, where did all this art come from? Where did these ideas come from? This is just to give you a close-up of the installation. So, oh, and also these kind of landmass sculptures that the that the bottles of liquid are sitting on and the plants are planted in. That is these sculptures that are mixed in with what a material called driveway mix. So that's for fixing potholes in your driveway. And this is also sand from Long Island. So okay, inspiration. Almost every attic in the United States will have this insulation foam inside it, and it is pink, bubblegum pink. Prior to the exhibition, I wasn't really sure what I was going to make work about. And I was on the beach. I found this horseshoe crab carapace, and I thought, oh, that could be interesting. I had grown up around horseshoe crabs. They were always kind of around the beach. Um, they're obviously kind of a little bit like, they're very prehistoric looking. They're an ancient species. So anyway, so I found this and I thought, oh, that could be something to work with. And I look up horseshoe crabs and I find out that humans are basically like, they're taking their blood. We're totally vampires to these arthropods. Um, their blood has their blood has this amazing ability to clot when it encounters any kind of bacteria. So their blood is actually extremely valuable to biomedical science. And the horseshoe crabs are taken out of the lands, taken out of the water where they live, the wetlands, and apparently only 30%. Apparently 30% of their blood is removed, and then they're supposed to be put back into their natural habitats. So this was the starting point for the exhibition. This was the kind of press image that went along with the show. Um, so I started researching horseshoe crabs, and it turns out on Long Island, there where I grew up, literally the town next to where I grew up is a place called Sercom, which is part of Malloy College, where they actually study horseshoe crabs in captivity. And there are only two labs in the whole world that do this, and the other one is in Hong Kong. So I was really excited about this. So I got in touch with John Tenacretti, who runs the lab, and made a date to go there and start doing research for this exhibition. So here are some images of the lab inside, where the horseshoe crabs are kept in captivity. This is John Tenacredi, who has been dubbed by Sylvia Earle, who is one of the world's most famous marine biologists. She calls him the horseshoe crab whisperer. And it was absolutely amazing to meet this man. He is such an advocate for the species and has such a deep connection to them and advocates for them, legislates for them, is doing everything he can to make sure that they're protected. And he's a total enthusiast. And it was really, really special to learn from him and learn about his research and his life and what he's doing here at CIRCOM. And these are some images I took of the horseshoe crabs. So this was particularly good to find the horseshoe crabs in captivity to photograph them because they predominantly live in brackish water, and it would have been really hard to get images of them in their natural habitats. This is a juvenile looking so cute. This is a horseshoe crab molt. So I actually took this home with me. They molt, I think, up to something like 12 times. As they grow bigger and bigger. So when you do find them in the wild, you're often seeing a molt, if not a dead one, which this is a dead one. This is some really interesting kind of groundwork that was happening at Capture Island, and this really became a part of the artwork. So I found all this kind of markings with spray paint and flags and these weird colors, a really pleasant surprise. And then this is what the artworks look like up close. You can see the horseshoe crabs in their kind of abstract Long Island landscapes. These are the juveniles collaged onto Capture Island. This guy's on the sand mine. And this is what the exhibition looked like. So this was, again, like a really fantastic moment of these different kinds of research coming together. So this artwork is called Carbon Flux, and it's located in a bog in the Irish Midlands. And this artwork came from an interest I had in peat. So if you don't know what peat is, it's a very slow forming kind of, it seems like it's soil, but it's something else. And humans have been burning it in the Northern Hemisphere, and actually I think in the Southern Hemisphere for millennia. It's been an energy source. So if you're Irish, you'll be very familiar with this. You'll know about turf cutting, and you'll know about bogs. So there's a lot, you know, the bogs in Ireland are some of the only ones left in Northern Europe. Most of them don't exist anymore, which is a shame because they're amazing landscapes. They're these kind of ancient landscapes in a way, because peat takes a really, really long time to form. It takes almost as long, it could be classed as a fossil fuel. And I became interested in peat because it is I started gardening, and I kept coming upon this peat-free compost. What is that? What is peat? Why is it controversial? So because peat is so amazing, and it forms in this anaerobic environment, which means there's no oxygen there, and because of that, it's a phenomenal carbon store. So the artwork is located in the Turan Bog, and the Turan Bog is the first place where industrialized peat extraction happened in Ireland. There's a lot of climate scientists that are studying these landscapes, which is really what this artwork is about. It's about this transition of the landscape being used for industrial extraction, and now it's being used to study climate science. This is an example of what the landscape looks like before and after it's been cut. And here is the sphagnum moss, and this is where the action happens. This is like what eventually becomes peat, and where all of this amazing energy forms and is stored. This is one of the power stations. I don't have loads of pictures of it of here, but it was amazing. It was a totally state-of-the-art facility that I think there was just a handful of people that actually work in it, but it was absolutely fascinating to be toured around and see all of the infrastructure to make this whole facility function. And then we went and had a tour of the peat briquette making factory, which was kind of the antithesis of the power station. It was a really kind of rough, like dirty, loud, greasy facility, which was actually, it was summer and they had turned all the machines off for maintenance. So we got to walk around while nothing was really running. But it was really wild to get a tour of this place. This is us on the rooftop of the briquette making factory. It's a real pleasure to be in the spaces. And then I got to meet John Feehan, who is kind of a guru, a renowned biologist. People in this part of the world really respect him. He has really interesting ideas about religion and nature. And I got to meet him, which was really, again, one of the highlights of the trip. We had a coffee and talked, and then he showed me a mushroom stone, which I was really excited about. This stone, this is a mushroom stone. He's trying to have all the mushroom stones in Ireland protected. This is a limestone formation from when this part of Ireland was full of lakes prior to, or just after the Ice Age, I think, as the glaciers receded. Which is why there's all of these bogs in Ireland. They used to be full of water. The Irish Midlands were full of lakes. And this shape here is formed from water lapping up the side of the edge of the lake. So this is some evidence of an ancient lake that used to be here a long time ago. And it was really special to get to encounter this geological formation. And then this is a tea hut. This actually had a direct link into the work. This is a place where the people who worked in the bogs used to take breaks just to get out of the miserable weather and have a cup of tea. So in there would be this. Maybe you can't see it, but where there would be a chimney here and a stove on the inside and a little setup for workers. And they would drag this all around the bog. It was on these kind of sleds, and they would, I'm sure, have horses or something pull it around. Maybe it wasn't horses, maybe whatever. So it got pulled around to different sites. And then I spoke to some data scientists and this particular organization called Earthy Matters that are doing all kinds of climate science in the bogs. And this is some of their data collection apparatus that I found really interesting. And so Dave from Earthy Matters shared images of his homemade DIY greenhouse gas emission collection apparatus that he's made. This one I particularly like. This is it. And so that is how carbon flux came to be. So it's an abstraction. It's an abstraction of these different kinds of things. It's about climate science. It's about bog architecture. And it's about the kind of industrial histories of this place mixed in with its more contemporary usage in studying greenhouse gas emissions. Okay, and lastly, I'm going to talk about this project. This project is called Tower of Varieties, and it's a semi-permanent installation that I made for the Hippodrome Theatre in Birmingham. So I have this kind of stacked sculpture because I want it to be reminiscent of geology. I'm always talking about periods of time, and I want it to feel like you're looking at geological strata as you climb the staircase, looking at this artwork. And I love this piece because you have multiple views of it. You can be up at the very top and look down. You can be on any level and see it in different ways. I'm sure for viewers that it's constantly changing, and I'm sure that you're noticing new things all the time when you look at it. It was also very technically challenging to make, which I'll get into as we look through the slides. You can see down here at the bottom, these are sandbags, and these are balancing out the form. These are some of the buildings that I got to explore and photograph for the artwork. This is the cricket grounds on the outside. This is the New Street station, the train station. This is the swimming baths I mentioned, Moseley Road swimming baths. This is the signal box. This is one of the only kind of seminal pieces of brutalist architecture left in Birmingham. This is the Symphony Hall. This did not make it into the piece, but this was almost a transcendental experience. I got to be in this immense space by myself. Spaghetti Junction and the Rotunda, which is probably Birmingham's most recognizable building because you can see it from all over the city. So these are how I kind of made the shapes for the sculpture. I just want you to see how rudimentary it is. This is me tracing shapes from rocks that I observed, printing them out onto graph paper, cutting them out. This is me trying to figure out, because I needed to scale them up and draw them onto sheets of plywood in order to make the piece. So all of this being on graph paper was really useful to me in how everything was scaled up. So this is one of the shapes, and I would have printed that quite large on maybe an A3 piece of paper and then folded it in half and used that as a means of drawing out the shape on a piece of plywood. And I'm sorry, I don't have any pictures to show you of that, but you can see that that shape is actually that. So you're studying engineering, you'll appreciate this. The rigging point for the whole sculpture was, they told me I had 350 kilograms to work with for the whole piece, which is not a lot. So I had to go to great lengths to make sure that all of these sculptures were really light. And I'm really proud to say that all of these, of the 12 sculptures, they weighed between 13 and 17 kilograms. So we were really able to keep it within the weight capacity. But we then found out that the winch was rated for something like 420 kilos. I can't remember exactly, but I was working with this really small number the whole time. I worked with a structural engineering firm called Format Engineers, and I worked with an engineer named Sarah Adrusi, and she was brilliant. We had continuously had a volley back and forth where I would give her drawings. She showed me where the center of mass would be. We talked about where the pick points needed to go. I mean, a lot of this I can sense intuitively, but it was a real pleasure to have a professional person be able to kind of verify these things. This is just another work in progress. This is not my studio. This is a workshop that I manage at Goldsmiths University. I mentioned earlier that I work in technical theater, and I work as the scenography technician there. So I help students design and build their scenery and set pieces for their performances. Here is a workshop picture, and there is my very nice friend Leonard, who helps me make work sometimes, working on the sculptures. He's doing all the sanding. I did the building, he did the sanding. Here's Leonard looking fabulous. So here is a picture of all the sculptures together in Studio 4. I mean, they look like they're ready to go, looking great. Here is just a screenshot of the SketchUp file that I used. You can see underneath here, there's a drawing. This is a map that we made, which I'll show you. We made a map of all the sculptures and where all the pick points would be, because we needed all the rigging points to go up to here, and we needed to make sure that there were pipes wherever one of the rigging points needed to meet. So, and all the sculptures are held with galvanized steel rope, and they're on these kind of adjustable wire grippers called gripples. So anyways, yeah, so when we were putting them up, we could adjust the heights and level them out in situ. Painted them gray so that when we wallpaper them with the images of the architecture, that the wallpaper paste doesn't absorb too much into the wood. So if you do like a kind of a primer layer, it's you're going to have a better adhesion between the wallpaper and the digital wallpaper and the surface of the wood. I should have mentioned that earlier. All of the sculptures are clad in printed images. I often use this kind of printed wallpaper and paste them onto the sculptures. And then, so here is the layout that came from that drawing. So we know like the kind of max where the sculptures can go to. And this is the drawing, maybe, so you can see all of the sculptures have been laid out and outlined. And where you see marks like this is where there's a pick point. So this is how I know that there's going to be clearance for all of the rigging lines to go through up to the top of the sculpture. This was our test. This was terrible. The test one went so bad. It was really good that we did a test. I work, again, because I work at Goldsmiths, I had access to a space. I couldn't rig the whole sculpture up, but I could rig up a few of the pieces. And Leonard and I learned a lot from this experience. And yeah, it was amazing how bad this went. That's okay. That was good that we had another chance to try it out before the big day of the install. But we did manage to get there. The central truss piece that breaks down into 5 sections. So all of that, you basically had to like put on a couple of the sculptures and then raise up the piece and then put the next column, the next bit of truss in, raise that up, etc., etc. So here is a picture of the prints looking really lovely. And here are the sculptures being wallpapered. Oh, actually, I think by now they're being packed. And here's the artworks all ready to go. and they're all packed up. And there they are loaded in the van, and that's it. There they go off to Birmingham. So thanks for listening to my talk. I hope that you found this interesting, and I look forward to collaborating with you in some kind of way, shape, or form. And I hope you're having a good summer. Okay, thanks. Take care. Bye.